Hello, everyone. Michael Cotto here, author of Return of the Prodigal. Return of the Prodigal is a mystery thriller novel. It is book one of the Prodigal of Passyunk Avenue mystery series. It stars or features Nick DeNobly. Here's a look at it. This is the paperback, and interestingly enough, this is the UK version. I actually ordered this from across the pond. So kind of neat. It's a one-off for me. It is available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle. And if you're a member of Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. Even if you're not, you can check it out on Amazon and take a peek inside. The look inside feature is enabled so that you could read, I believe it's the first three chapters, and get a flavor for the writing, see if it's something you like. I hope you do, and if you do, please go on to purchase it. It's only $3.99 for the ebook. Even if you don't have a Kindle, you could read it on any device, on your laptop, on your phone, on your desktop, using the free Kindle reading app. Anyway, enough of that. The reason I'm coming at you today is I want to speak to you a little bit about this notion, this idea of nostalgia. So nostalgia is a theme that I would suggest is recurrent throughout the Return of the Prodigal, and what prompted me to make that the theme of this talk is an article that I read recently by a fantastic writer for the New Yorker. His name is Michael Chabon, and he writes an article, and it's titled "The True Meaning of Nostalgia." Now, I'm going to link that both in some of my social media posts, and I'll post this video to YouTube as well. I'll try to put a link to it there, but it's pretty easy to find. True Meaning of Nostalgia by Michael Chabon. Incidentally, if you go ahead and sign up for the Prodigal Cabana Club, I'll send you a newsletter that kind of summarizes this talk and gives you the link to Michael Chabon's article, as well as some other materials. That Prodigal Cabana Club is just a fun newsletter, kind of insider VIP club that I created for the readers. All you have to do is go on the website at cotobooks.com and sign up just by putting your first name and your email address. You'll probably receive an email maybe once a month, maybe even less. You can unsubscribe at any time, but I hope you don't, because we're going to be sending out some pretty good information, especially about book two, which I'm working on, Revenge of the Prodigal. I may leak out some sneak peek information, some sneak peek excerpts. I'll also be updating you guys with respect to any events, giveaways, pop-ups where I may be signing books, things of that nature. But enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about nostalgia and how that Michael Chabon's article intersects with Return of the Prodigal. Question that comes to mind: what is this whole idea of nostalgia? What does it mean to be nostalgic? What place does it have in our lives? Is it just a sweet sentiment that causes us to yearn for the past, or is it something more insidious, a sense of an idealized, romanticized past that is actually holding us back? I find that to be very pertinent to the underlying recurrent themes in The Prodigal, especially as it concerns Nick and his relationship with Grace, and the pull of the past relationship with Angie. One of my favorite scenes, and I'm going to I'll post an excerpt in social media as well as perhaps on my website, is where Nick, it's well along into the novel, Nick has already been back on the avenue, and he's now sitting in his grandmother's house. It's the last vestige of his childhood, so to speak, and Nick is grappling with the idea of having to sell this house and all its contents. And so I'm going to go ahead and read this little excerpt for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Nick sat in the kitchen of his grandmother's house. Other than Vecchio, it was the last property remaining to be sold to close out the estate. He had purposely drug his feet on this one. The little row home was chock full of childhood memories and more than a few ghosts. Every utensil was in its place, frozen in time. Nick pulled out a wooden spoon and laughed to himself. It was the chosen weapon of every Italian grandmother, and Nick knew this one intimately. It was worn unevenly after decades of stirring in pots and pans by Nick's grandmother. He wondered how he could possibly sort and box all the utensils and knickknacks. Each one seemed more a talisman than a tool, and he would hate to throw them away. He knew what Grace would say: let them go. Hold them for a moment, acknowledge their existence, and then leave them in the past, along with all the other things holding you back. And I hope you enjoy that chapter. I don't believe I gave anything away there, but it does highlight this idea of the tension between the Grace character and the Angie character. And I go on to write in this post and in the newsletter that I kind of envision Angie on one side of this tug of war and Grace on the other, and Angie pulling Nick into the back to the South Philadelphia of the past, and Grace kind of pulling on the other end, gently urging him into the future, but ready to let go at any moment, and Nick kind of in the middle being torn. Tell me what you think. How do you feel about that? Is that something that you felt as well? And what place does nostalgia have in your life? We all know people that we talk about, jokingly, where we'll say, oh, this one, he or she, oh, they live in the past. And sometimes I suggest that people probably say that about us. I know they do about me. And if you read this novel, there's certainly ample evidence that at times I do. So I'm definitely guilty of that. But I'd like you to think about that theme of nostalgia as you read or reread or revisit Return of the Prodigal. And I'm going to close out with a little nugget here from Michael Chabon. Michael, he speaks of nostalgia and says it's that feeling that overcomes you when some minor vanished beauty of the world is momentarily restored. Think about that. I did. It really impacted me and caused me to think about doing this talk. Michael goes on to say, Michael Chabon, the nostalgia that I write about, that I study, that I feel, is the ache that arises from the consciousness of lost connection. Nostalgia, most truly and most meaningfully, is the emotional experience, always momentary, always fragile, of having what you lost or never had, of seeing what you miss seeing, of meeting the people you miss knowing, of sipping coffee in the storied cafes that are now hot yoga studios. It's the feeling that overcomes you when some minor vanished beauty of the world is momentarily restored, whether summoned by art or by the accidental enhancement of a painted advertisement for Sensen, say, or Bromo Seltzer, hidden for decades, then suddenly revealed on a brick wall when a neighboring building is torn down. In that moment, you are connected. You have placed a phone call directly into the past and heard an answering voice. That certainly impacted me and made me think. In my writing of The Prodigal, was I making a phone call into the past? And who am I hoping to hear on the other line? I hope that it's you, the reader of Return of the Prodigal. So check in with me on Cauto Books on Facebook, at Michael Cauto Author on Instagram, or please sign up for the Prodigal VIP Cabana Club. It's a fun thing. Go on to cautobooks.com and you'll receive the newsletter about nostalgia. So I'll be back soon talking about a different topic, and hope that this gives you some food for thought while you're reading Return of the Prodigal. Thanks again.